Mass for this, the third Sunday after Epiphany, bids us to adore Christ, whose birth we have spent the past 4 weeks celebrating. So we carry this adoration forth through proclamation of our personal lives as living examples of Jesus' love for all mankind. Throughout the world, in fact, the gospel is preached by the one Church of Christ, called by the Fathers of the Second Vatican Council the universal sacrament of salvation. And so this proclamation and the Church which makes it is a divine manifestation of the love of God, that love which he has for the whole of mankind. This divine love and all that it entails is the one and only sufficient means of salvation for the broken and self-deceived social order in which we make our way as persons of Christian faith. And beloved, we are not living, at least we ought not to be living, merely to survive from one day to the next. We are on our way to the truer and the eternal life of the vision of God in glory. In today's epistle reading, St. Paul admonishes his converts not to be conceited in that faith which they have taken on, since the Christian must be a leaven of salvation in the midst of the wider world of unbelievers in which they live. Still in all, Paul urges them, and us by extension, that we be at peace with all with whom we live, to the degree that it is at all possible. Beloved, this does not mean condoning errors, nor worse still, sharing in them. Paul urges rather that through our conduct, which others can see, we will be honorable in the eyes of God and profitable to those around us whose hearts are perhaps open to the truth. But Paul also urges us in regard to those who wish us harm. We are to overcome evil by good, since vengeance is God's alone. We must remember that in the new political configuration that we find ourselves in this country. We will have lots of opportunity for standing as witness of good in the face of evil. And the gospel reading shows us why. The present world in which we live, as you have heard me say many times, is passing away. Thus, we, as true believing, true worshiping Christians, we must know that this world is not our permanent home. And what is more, in it, we are constantly beset with suffering, which is the fruit of sin and self-deception. And those who are at enmity with us suffer in exactly the same way. The difference being we have the hope of salvation and know its origin and its means, whereas they do not. They, placing all of their hope, all of their satisfaction in the present order, which they are constantly tweaking in their minds to better, and in fact, as we know, make incrementally worse and worse. But it is precisely in this world and in the very conditions in which we are living, which are in accordance with God's permissive will, that is, he has allowed the results of the election which we have seen, he has allowed the political order and the social order to rise in which we are living, he has allowed it. I believe it may well be a just punishment which he is visiting on all of us, but it is in this world that he continues to call us all to a supernatural hope, and that despite however wretched or far from him we may be, or the world in which we're living, in fact, is. In Jesus' encounter with the centurion, he taught the Jews something about the narrow-mindedness and self-righteous security of their religious convictions. Descent, affiliation, and inheritance mean quite nothing to God. It is purity of heart, which is born of humility, that characterizes the true children of salvation. Religion, which relies on the exact performance of an outward ritual, has quite literally no claim on grace. Grace being a divine gift freely given by God to any and all who seek him in truth within their hearts and moral integrity in outward behavior. That seeking is already prevenient grace at work within them. We should note well that the centurion was not a member of the accepted religion, even if he had shown himself favorable to it in different ways. No, it was not by genetic descent nor social affiliation, but the humble faith that an outsider vividly showed in the presence of the truth of Christ. It was in those conditions that his servant was healed at once and from afar. One more demonstration of Jesus' divinity. The miraculous cure was a silent and dramatic reproach to those who thought themselves justified by empty external display in matters of religious practice. Now, beloved, do we practice the charity and honesty urged upon us by St. Paul, coupled to that humble confidence of this centurion, an outsider to accepted religion? Do we practice our faith by true interior conviction or by exterior gestures, argumentation, keeping ourselves informed of all the latest outrages, which we can demonstrate why they are outrages, by those in authority in the church? Do we do all that? And that devoid of interior Christian Catholic realities? Well, the time between Paul, the centurion, and ourselves is as nothing in the life of God. And so we should do and be as they, for therein is found not only the consolation of true religion, but its power for reformation and healing our broken lives. It is to this precisely that we are called as Christians. We are called to humility, to love, and sure confidence in God and his providence, such that by our outward conduct we bear witness to the interior sovereignty of the Lord, the sole power by which our brokenness is being healed, and indeed that same means by which the world could be healed as well. This, beloved, is how the laity preached, so to speak, the Gospels to the ends of the world. This witness of Christian behavior spread as a leaven throughout the world by the members of his church is what comprises the universal sacrament of salvation, the pledge of redemption to the whole race of mankind. Sacrament, one of its several meanings, is that of pledge. As we draw towards the Lenten season, Next Sunday, Septuagesima is upon us already. Let us consciously work to rekindle this divine and supernatural gift from God within ourselves. For after life itself, we have no greater possession than our precious Christian faith. Let us ask Jesus and Mary to make our hearts supple to grace, thus becoming true witnesses to the world around us through the humble charity of our daily conduct. For in so doing, we draw not only ourselves but others towards the glory for which all of us have been created. And this remains ever and always our duty, to share with the world around us our hope for the bliss of heaven. For it is there with the angels and saints that God has given us life and all, and draws us now by grace, to the end that we will look upon his very face, even unto the ages of ages. Please rise. Credo in unum Deum, ad omnipotentem,